Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me for episode 7 of Veiled Mysteries. Thank you, as always, for subscribing down below. Make sure to hit the bell notification down in the description to be notified every time we go live. Tonight, we are exploring the odd phenomenon of missing people across the United States, from young children to well-prepared adults. For decades, the majestic mountains and the plains of the national park system have been plagued with mysterious vanishings, most without a trace. Is this something more sinister going on in the national parks? Has the veil between the spiritual world and the physical realm thinned where some wander in and do not return? Or have unanswered mysteries of the Appalachian Mountains began to reveal their secrets? We're going to take a deep dive into 3 different cases just up next. As always, viewer discretion is advised. Episode 7 of Veiled Mysteries begins right now.
The following program you are about to watch will cover conspiracies, true crime, and deep investigative journalism. That may include sensitive topics some viewers may find disturbing or uncomfortable. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Veiled Mysteries. Today, we are going to be looking at some interesting missing persons cases throughout the United States, especially through the National Park Service. Now, there is something that I kind of fell down a little bit of a rabbit hole earlier today, and it has something to do with this, but we're not going to talk about it completely because I do have problems with this I guess it could be a conspiracy theory on its own. The missing 411, if anyone's ever heard of that, the missing 411 theory, thought process, series of documentaries and missing persons cases. We're going to be taking a look at 3 missing persons cases that disappeared in national parks. But also I do want to focus attention on a couple other things regarding missing persons and like where missing people go missing. So I have a map up here that we're going to take a look at. I don't have it in great detail. It's just something that we're going to kind of peruse at while I'm talking about some of these cases here. The map on the top portion of the screen is where people go missing in the United States. This is not every person. This is not an exhaustive list. But this is a majority of people where they go missing in the United States. The bottom map is the cave systems in the United States, a lot of them connected to our national parks. And we're going to take a look at one of those. We're going to take a look at 3 of those cases today. So the first case that I want to look at together is Dennis Martin. And this really was a landmark missing persons case in the sense that this really was the first major missing persons case that got serious attention. Let me make sure this is set up right. 1 second. Yeah, sorry. So we're going to be looking at Dennis Martin. It's a case from 1969. It was Father's Day weekend. Between Tennessee and North Carolina along the Appalachian Trail in the Smoky Mountains. It was a family trip that they were on. It was the Martin family and then 2 other families that were kind of hiking the Appalachian Trail along that area and kind of camping along the way. And they found themselves in an area called Spence Field, which is kind of this open area right at the base of the mountain ridge, along a lot of the main trails that people take to the Appalachian Trail. And they were sitting there having a picnic, kind of just resting for a little bit, and the kids were running around playing, doing as children do. And Dennis was running around the grassy area with two of the other children from the other families, not even 300 feet away from the families where they were kind of sitting in this grassy area. They were running around from each other and kind of hiding behind trees, kind of jumping out at each other. Well, Dennis went behind a tree and never returned. Um, like I said, they were not even 300 feet away from the families that were kind of in the middle of this grassy area. Dennis's father was watching him kind of run back and forth between these trees, and he saw him go behind a tree and never came back. About 15, 20 minutes went by. They walked around the area, couldn't find him. This obviously caused some mass panic for the families. They started searching the areas. Dennis's father went as far as walk the last stop that they made, which is over a mile away, to see if he maybe had gone a little too far, got lost, and went back to where they originally were. No luck there. It really was the first full-scale missing persons case that really rocked the United States. It got massive media coverage. There were thousands of people looking for Dennis in this area of the Appalachian Trail. And it's also the largest missing persons case that the National Park Service has ever put service members out for. And the wildest thing of this, no remains, no clothes, no equipment or evidence was ever found of Dennis. And this was in 1969. Nothing. In the blink of an eye, vanished. We're just going to keep going. We're going to go through these other two, and then we're going to kind of talk about the conspiracy theories and some of the ideas I might have about this. Second one we're going to be talking about today, Aaron Hedges. He was in his mid-30s, early 40s, very experienced camper and hiker. He was hiking out in the Crazies, which is a mountain region in Montana. We'll talk about it being called the Crazies as well. He went hiking with some friends. He went with two other people rather. And Aaron knows this area very well. Aaron has hiked this back and forth. He could do this with his eyes closed. He is very familiar with this area. He even went as far as he's in this area so often that he went in deeper off the trails and hid camp equipment, emergency equipment. So if he was ever in the area, he knew in which direction to go, that he had his emergency supplies. That's how often he was in this area. He stored several of these little caches of items several miles apart across several different trails. Well, this particular time that he was hiking with his friends, he brought a pack mule, an actual mule with their items, because I believe they were going out for about a week. And the mule had freaked out. I don't know if there was a sound that may have startled the mule, and the mule kind of took off and their belongings went everywhere, and he lost a lot of his things. Because Aaron was confident with what he had hidden, he said, let's get to where we're going. I'm going to go hike out to get some of the items that I have hidden out in this area of this trail. They have these really fancy walkie-talkies. I want one of these walkie-talkies. I'm pretty interested in what they are. So he has these walkie-talkies that not only works as a walkie-talkie, but it has their GPS signal on it. And with the GPS signal, every time they would talk to each other, it would send coordinates of where the ping was coming from. So Aaron had one. His two friends that he was with had the other. And thank you, Allison, for tuning in today. And he went to go retrieve these items. It was middle of the day. He said he would be back by nightfall. Nightfall came. They hadn't seen him, but they had the walkie-talkie. So they had reached out to him on the walkie-talkie and said, hey, what's going on? Where are you at? And when he pinged back, it showed his location as going the wrong direction. And they said, hey, you're going the wrong direction. Do you need anything? Are you all right? He pinged back and walkie-talkie, yeah, I realized I was going the wrong direction. I'm just going to make the long lap around. I'm going to grab the stuff and kind of come the long way. And they said, okay. Next morning, nothing. They hadn't heard from him. They hadn't pinged him. They tried to ping the walkie-talkie. Nothing was coming up. So they started to panic. They gathered their own belongings and started to search the area. They started going towards the area of where the walkie-talkie was last pinged, to see if Aaron was in the area. Obviously, when they got there, there was nothing. So they got the National Park Service involved. They got the authorities involved, and several other search parties joined in this effort to find Aaron. In the process of this, a snowstorm had stopped the search process, and they were unable to search for a couple days. However, after the storm blew through, they were able to continue the search efforts. Several days after this storm, they went back to the areas of where the ping was. Along a riverbank, they found, this is where it gets good, ladies, they found a water bladder, hiking straps for like his backpack that kind of go on the backpack on the side, and his boots. And his boots were placed very neatly next to each other, as if someone had just taken them off and was going to put them back on. The interesting thing about this is they had already searched this area before the snowstorm, and the boots were not there. None of those items were there. So they thought they had a big break in the case. They thought that, they kind of took that center part and kept searching and making the area bigger and bigger and bigger. No luck. Several weeks after that, they there's a ranch not far from where they were hiking. So there was a ranch hand kind of walking up one of the hillsides and found a thermos sitting on a rock with what else was sitting there? There was a thermos sitting with something, and something else was placed on, I think it was a pair of sunglasses. Yeah, pair of sunglasses just placed on a rock, which both were confirmed to belong to Aaron. There's nothing in the thermos, but the thermos was placed there as if someone had put it down and was coming back. And this was several weeks later after several more storms. Obviously, this kind of reignited the search effort for Aaron. So people started searching again. Not far from where they found that thermos, they found a skull and a backpack placed up against a tree as if someone was just there. When they went in the backpack, they found an identification card for Aaron. Not sure if this is to note, but when they discovered his skull, they found the rest of his body except for his feet. There were no feet, like bones, attached to what they found, which I don't know if that means anything. I just thought it was interesting to kind of include that since we found the shoes. So, interesting. Also in the remains, they found his cell phone, which further identified Aaron as the missing person. He was found 11 miles away from his last known location and 6 miles away from where they found the boots. And this is a large span of time, but how did he get so far without being noticed? These trails are pretty popular. Aaron knows them well, of course. And other than what they found on his skeletal remains, there's been no other evidence of where he was or how he got there. The third final case that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to really get into the conspiracy of it and kind of my thoughts and all that. But this is the final case, and this one really hits home for me because this is a Boy Scout. I grew up through the scouting organization. I am an Eagle Scout. So we're gonna go through this one, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about my thoughts on this. So this last one is Garrett Bardsley. It's in a Utah National Forest, and it was a Boy Scout trip in the mountains with some hiking during the day and then camping in the evening. The campsite is about 150 yards away from the lake where Garrett was last seen. So here's the story. Dad and Garrett are camping on this Boy Scout trip. They wake up. Dad decides he wants to go fishing with his son because it's nice, pristine waters, nice fishing conditions, and they're on a camping trip together. They go down to the water. They have their fishing poles. They're ready to go. And while Garrett's fishing, he falls into the water. His pants and socks get wet. He's uncomfortable, so he wants to go change. The campsite, like I said, is 150 feet away from where they're fishing. When Garrett goes up the pathway and makes the left to the campsite. Garrett's father's watching him the whole time. He's 11 years old. He's watching him the whole time, make sure he goes the right way. So he's watching him the whole time. He turns to go left, past the tree line. About 15, 20 minutes go by. Garrett's dad's concerned, so he goes up to the campsite to see that he did not make it back to their tent. Obviously, this caused mass panic with the Boy Scout troop that was there, so they started searching, and there was nothing. There was not a trace. He also brought his fishing pole back with him. Not a trace. There was no fishing pole on the ground, like if he saw something and got startled and ran. There was no sign of Garrett even being close to the campsite. So how is this happening? We'll get into that. Several weeks after some rain and snow, they don't find Garrett. After several weeks of rain and snow, they find in a boulder field by the campsite a sole sock, one Nike ankle sock, which Garrett was wearing. And upon further investigation, they determined that the sock was discarded while it was wet. I don't know how the police determined that, but they determined it was discarded while it was wet, which leads authorities to believe it was Garrett's sock because they were wet when he left. What's so interesting about all of these is they all take place next to water or in the adjacent area of water. They all are people that are, I would say, are equipped. Obviously, Aaron, very well equipped, knew the area, knew what he was doing, very experienced hiker. Garrett, a Boy Scout, general understanding of wilderness survival, used to camping, although he was 11 years old, he was in the Boy Scouts, and knowing what I knew at 11 years old, I would say he was equipped. Not like Aaron, but he was equipped. And then, obviously, Dennis, younger, but with his family, that are experienced and know hiking and they know camping. So what's going on in our national parks? Do we think that something crazy's going on? Do we think it's Bigfoot? That's one of the theories. I don't personally believe that one. I find that very interesting that people think it's Bigfoot. But there's a couple that I am interested in and I kind of fell down the rabbit hole of today. So the first one that obviously comes up is human trafficking. That one kind of it ties in with the cave system as well. Pull up that picture again with the cave system and human trafficking. If people know these trails and they're hiding in the dark, taking advantage of people that may not be expecting it, pulling them into these cave systems. If these cave systems are all connected along the Appalachian Trail, they can pop in one side and pop out in another state. I know that's really scary to think about, but that's also a possibility there. The one that I am the most interested in is a paranormal and supernatural aspect of it. There are places that we know of in the United States, across the world, where the veil between the physical world and the spirit world are blended. The veil is very thin in these areas. And there's one particular area, and I know this is a little off topic, but I wanted to talk about it because I think it kind of proves this theory. There's a small town in Florida called Cassadaga, Florida. Follow me here, folks. Follow me here. I can go off on a tangent a little bit. Cassadaga, Florida is the psychic capital of the world, especially the United States. It was founded by a psychic from up north. He was told to come to this area by the spirit realm due to its proximity to water. and the energies that it has tied to the earth, and settled this neighborhood called Casadega, um, for psychic beings to dwell and to live. I had been there. I had visited there, and I can tell you the energy is weird. If you've ever been to somewhere that's known to be haunted, like Gettysburg or a historical area, you know that heavy energy feeling of you kind of know you're not the only one there. And Casadega, Florida definitely has that. And I think there's places, especially in our national parks, that, hundreds of years ago were inhabited by Native Americans that have deep rituals tied to the earth and tied to the spirit world. And, mixing that with, people that aren't aware of that, those energies are still there. And I definitely think there are instances, especially in the mountains, where there's that whole lore of the Appalachian Mountains, that are just closer bridges to the spirit world. And I do have to say, in the case of Garrett, in the Utah National Forest where it happened, that was also along like the path where Skinwalker Ranch is, if anyone's aware of that. That had kind of come up in my research that I thought was an interesting take as well. But yeah, I'm kind of on the paranormal and supernatural side of it. And I definitely think there's Native American roots that are just tied in so deep to the earth that, people might not know, like when they turn a corner, it's somewhere else and it's not on this earth. An interesting thing to think about. And also, one of the theories that really floats around online that I just cannot get behind is UFOs and Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot is good lore. I just don't believe it. I can't get my mind around a big hairy man living in the woods. I can't get behind it, but it's an interesting idea. And then obviously UFOs, interesting take. Obviously, we know that there's alien life. It was confirmed by the former president. But I don't know. There's something about the national parks and the areas around it that were inhabited by the people that were here long before us. Something very spiritual and cultural about that I feel like that is tied a little bit closer together. I have my phone number running here. If you have any thoughts or opinions, I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'm trying to get some comments going here to see if I've been having a hard time with some comments recently, guys. And if you've been watching for a long time, you know that we've been having problem with comments. But yeah, if you would like to leave your thoughts and opinions, I'd love to hear what you have to say. 407-801-7204. I got my phone here, ready to take some calls. If anyone even wants to call, love to hear what you have to say. Yeah, that's what I got. Let's see. Perfect. I got the phone working. A little bit back to human trafficking. I know a lot of people in the United States go missing here. As I'm sitting here in Orlando, Florida, I know that this is I think this is the third worst in the United States, Orlando, Florida, for human trafficking. So that's definitely a concern. And, if we're thinking about the children that go missing, for sure. There were reports several years ago. I had found in my research that someone thought they had seen Garrett. I think it was because this was in 2004. They had thought they'd saw Garrett at a Walmart. And at the time, he would have been like 16 or 17 years old. And they had kind of determined that it wasn't him. But it was interesting that people kind of thought that after all of that, and the elements, 11-year-old surviving the snow and several rainstorms, that he would be alive in a Walmart. I did find something interesting and I kind of tied my two worlds together because I grew up through the scouting organization. Garrett's father founded the Garrett Bradley Foundation, which helps find missing and lost Boy Scouts in the United States, which I found very interesting. I feel like I'm missing something here. I wanted to say something else. I'm all over the place today, folks. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions on that. I think that's quite interesting. Let's see. My co-conspirator, I'll call her Taylor Edwards. We're having some technical issues connecting her to the show today. So she's not able to join us right now, but she is texting in right now. Let's see. I want to hear more about your paranormal theory. So my paranormal theory, I think there's also a whole thing about like cryptids and like skinwalkers and all that. I don't know about that, but the paranormal theory, I think, oh, oh, Taylor called me. um, the paranormal theory, let's try. Let's see what happens. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No! Hello?
Hello?
Brandon?
Yes? Oh no, I don't know if it works like
Hello?
this.
Can you hear me?
Bluetooth disconnected.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi?
Oh, thank God! Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
What's happening? Oh no, I think I lost her.
Oh my gosh!
What's happening? I don't know what's happening. We're having technical issues. Technical issues through the roof. But yeah, I'm also sweating in my garage right now. Sorry if I look really sweaty. I don't think I do. I don't know. What's happening? Hello?
Hello?
Hi. Can you hear me? What's happening? Oh my gosh, this is so silly, guys. We're just trying our best out here at Veiled Mysteries. But yeah, the paranormal. Oh yeah, it is really delayed. Sorry, Taylor. The paranormal theory. God, I'm sweating. Everyone's very interested in the paranormal theory. I don't know. I just think there are certain parts in the world with certain energies. Like I said, where the veil is just thin and spirits can kind of come in and out. And I am in my garage. Allison. Where spirits can kind of come in and out. Like the doorway is just, let's say the doorway's cracked. So spirits can kind of come in and out and we can kind of dwell in that space together. Obviously, there are places where there are spirits, there's places where there's ghosts, there's places where there is very evil energy. But I think that space kind of where, you know, the dead, I don't know how to put this. Like the dead are coexisting in a space where they may not know they're dead. I guess we could say it like that, where they may think they're still part of the living world in this space. And I don't know where I was going with that. I think I'm having a heat stroke. But yeah, I definitely think this is more paranormal based than it would be like Bigfoot. Yes, Taylor. I do think that the people that are vanishing are going into a realm. I don't know. I don't know if I mean per se like heaven or hell, but I think they're going into a parallel area to where we are. Um, I think the best example of that would be like a parallel universe where um, people they always say that people don't really die, they move on to the next universe. Like that's a kind of ongoing theory. So what if, one of these kids that turn the corner in the tree and they just enter another universe and they don't even know that they went missing, but they went missing in this universe. That's getting crazy. That gets really crazy. So get your tinfoil hats on for that one. Which I guess another example, and this is a crazy example. I was in a car accident with my best friend Shiloh many, many years ago. And I think there was a veil that was thinned because when we got in the car accident, I got out of the car and there was a woman there. This is getting crazy. Get your tinfoil out, ladies. There's a lady standing there with a walkie-talkie and said, "Hey, do you guys need an ambulance?" Just standing there. She called an ambulance. Ambulance showed up. I don't know where that woman came from. So I think that was one of those instances where the spirit world and the physical world kind of blended in that moment. Not that that space is inherently haunted or anything like that, but that moment in time, the parallels had crossed between spirits and the physical world. So I think there's instances like that, high stress situations, spiritual moments like that. Um, and yeah, I'm convinced from that happening. I'm convinced that that woman's not actually real. I think she was some sort of angel or some sort of being there to help me, guardian angel, some sort. But she had presented herself in that moment, that high stress moment, to ease tension, to I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's a hard thing to explain to someone that didn't see it, because this woman looked very real to me. And I think that's one of the instances that I'm kind of milling on here is the world's mix at certain points in the world. Taylor, I do think there is an aspect of the cave theory kind of tying into it too. Um, yes. So back to the paranormal theory as well. I do think that there's spirits that are caught in the in between. So not only do we have that thin barrier between the spiritual world and the physical world, I think there's energy and spirits that are stuck. Um, and to kind of tie it back to the whole story here, I think they're stuck in some of these national parks that have like deep roots in Native culture and Native American culture. Um, yeah, I'm a little lost for words here because I have so many delayed comments here. Um, but yeah, I think what I find interesting, I guess we'll kind of go back to the Aaron Hedges story. What I find interesting with Aaron is his items were found after those areas were searched. So in Aaron's case, was Aaron going between parallels? Was he going between this physical and spiritual world? And maybe Aaron realized he was lost and kind of popped back into the physical world, was trying to gather himself by having that equipment out, and turned and went back. It gets very confusing very fast, and it gets very complicated very fast. So the fact that these items were found at different periods after they were already searched, it kind of feels like that the parallels were. Yeah, and like Taylor said, even after the storm, these items were found as if they were just left there. I think it's kind of that stuck in between this realm. And that's even a good thought, Taylor, that Aaron put the items there for people to find him. Maybe on the other side, he got lost and was starting to leave items so people would find him. That's another good perspective on that. But I definitely feel like it is a more, I mean, obviously these kind of things can't be explained, but I think there's a better explanation to be had for it being considered a spiritual or a paranormal event. But yeah, I this is definitely something that I want to look into more and kind of do maybe another episode or two on, especially with Taylor, because there's a lot to unpack here. And people also have brought up animals with this, and in all of these situations, Aaron was the only one that they actually found remains for, but there was no damage or trauma to his bones that they would have thought that there was an animal attack or anything like that. And even with animal attacks, there's clothes debris, there's DNA, there's hair, there's skin. When you find these things, when you find people that were attacked by animals, there's always evidence of that. And in none of these cases, at least the ones I looked at, there's no evidence of that. So that definitely adds a layer to these stories. And that's another good point, Taylor. The search dogs, they don't pick up a scent in those areas. There's nothing, they can't get anything out of these areas when they send in these search dogs with the police to find a trail. There's nothing. They have no lead in that regard, which I find very interesting as well. Which, if we're talking about people parallel hopping and kind of moving between realms, there wouldn't be a scent because they are moving to a different parallel. Kind of to talk a little bit about the missing 411, there's several documentaries. I think they're all free on YouTube if you want to check those out. It kind of goes through this cave system idea of people going missing around the cave systems in the national parks. It's very interesting. There's a lot of different problems I have with it. There's not always... It gets a little bit more radical as you continue to look, because a lot of it's like Bigfoot, UFO type things. The beginning is humble, where it's, people making a wrong turn, dying and going down the river, things like that. There's even, I think in Aaron's case, they possibly talked about a suicide because he's right next to the water there. So it's interesting. I just have a problem with how they present it, because it doesn't necessarily look at it at all angles. But if someone that's watching this has any interest in this, I highly recommend watching those. You might be able to get something out of it. I find them hard to watch and not in the best taste, but they are definitely interesting. And like I said, I would love to kind of delve into this again with another topic, possibly another case as well. But I do have a little bit more exciting news before I leave this episode. I think we're pretty much wrapping up for today. I want to send a sincere and deep appreciative thank you to you for subscribing and engaging with this podcast. Without your support, viewership, and engagement, this show would not be possible. Over the past several episodes, behind the scenes, myself and our Veiled Mysteries chief correspondent and legal analyst, Taylor Edwards, have been working together and assembling a mini-series that we'll be bringing to you over the next few weeks, in place of the regular Veiled Mysteries podcast. In that time, together, we're going to retell, unpack, shed light, and dissect, in great detail, the horrific murder that took place in the winter of 2022 in the shadow of the University of Idaho. The King Road, Idaho 4 murder that rocked the small community of Moscow and shocked the nation has many unanswered questions that we're going to take a look at and discuss over a 3-episode special miniseries. Taylor and I are thrilled to bring this special series to you and look forward to premiering episode 1 next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here is a sneak peek of what we have in store.
911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something's happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122 Kings Road.
The Idaho 4 miniseries episode 1 airs live next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for spending a little bit of your evening here with me today. As always, make sure to subscribe down below and hit the bell notification in the description to be notified every time we are live. Veiled Mysteries is live every Monday at 8 p.m. in the East, 7 p.m. in the Mid-Region, and 6 p.m. in the West. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Veiled Mysteries Pod for updates and to stay in touch. If you have a true crime case or a conspiracy theory you'd like to see us cover, feel free to message me or email me at veiledmysterytips@gmail.com. As always, ask questions, stay curious, and be informed. I'm Brandon Ward. Have a good night.